Hey guys, welcome back. Jeb Smith here. Today I have a special guest who many of you probably know, Christina Smallhorn. She has an awesome YouTube channel out there. Talks a lot about housing. Probably at the moment, Christina, the largest YouTube channel for someone strictly still talking about housing. Hasn't jumped off on all the other tangents at the moment. Over 100,000 subscribers. So congratulations on that. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. I appreciate you having me on here. When I got your email, I was very excited. I was like, yes, of course. I can't wait
Well,
to talk to you.
no, I appreciate you doing. I mean, you put out a lot of really great content, and what I tell people about my channel when I'm talking about it is, the goal was always to educate, empower, guide home buyers and sellers through what we think of as a pretty simple process because we do it every single day. We don't really think much about it. But when you think of it from somebody that's going through it from the first time or for the first time, it's overwhelming, right? There's a lot of moving pieces. You've got the mortgage side of things. You've got, going in, trying to find a real estate agent. And then once you find an agent, all the nuances of that. And then in this environment, you throw in just the craziness of everything going on. And so I think it's important to have people like you out there, laying the foundation, if you will, for those that need that information and not looking to sell them something. I mean, you're not on here selling them anything. You're just providing information, and it's doing people a lot of good. And so I want to say thank you because the more educated home buyers are, even if they're not in my market, the better and the easier it makes everyone's job. So say awesome job there.
Thank
But yeah, for sure. But you talk a lot about affordable housing, right? I mean, I
Right.
think that is something that we're on the precipice of this. I want to say a cliff because I don't
That was a big
necessarily,
word.
yeah,
Precipice.
yeah, I can't spell it. I can say it.
Okay.
I can barely say it. So it might not even be now pronouncing it correctly. So we might edit that out. But anyway, I'm kidding. So we're kind of at this point where, people, first time home buyers are going out, even people that have sold their homes. I had somebody yesterday on a live stream tell me they sold their home with the idea that they were going to wait just a couple of months for something to happen, and then they were going to buy another property. And essentially this was a year ago, and they got
Mhm.
priced out of the market.
Right.
And so a lot of your videos are built around affordable housing, helping those in that environment, if you will. So what are your thoughts at the moment with regards to just housing in general? Now, I'm not looking for any forecast. I mean, just, when you think of housing at the moment, what comes to mind?
Well, affordability is always the first thing that comes to my mind because I know there is a lack of affordable housing throughout the country. And the solutions for affordable homes that have been proposed make my skin crawl. And there's ways that we couldn't do it now because it's been done this way in the past that we could implement right now. I mean, it's just basically plug and play what they've done before and do it again. But that doesn't necessarily make the big investors really happy. Some of the most of the solutions that I've heard that have come out of big corporations' mouths is to build more affordable apartments, more affordable homes, but just to rent them out, not for people to purchase them. And that makes me mad because in order for the average person to build wealth is through investing in real estate. That's what most people do. If you look at history, although a lot of the boomers made money by investing in real estate and buying these small houses, and some of them having one or two of them and being able to sell them off or refinancing them and be able to put their kids through college. If we continue down the path that they're proposing, that's not going to be an opportunity that's afforded to our kids in the future. And that doesn't seem like a very good solution to me.
No, I would agree. I mean, there's a stat out there that homeowners have a great, 44 times greater net worth than those of renters, right? So those that are able to buy property, not necessarily, I wouldn't say invest in property, because when you buy a primary residence, you're not necessarily investing in property, but you're buying something that you need. And through that, you're able to build wealth because of appreciation, because you're paying down the loan there. It's like a forced savings. And over time, you're able to grow your nest egg, if you will. And I think that's important. I think a big problem, Christina, and we can talk about this, is during 2020, I think there was a greater gap, if you will, right? The gap widened between those that were wealthy and those kind of and I don't want to say at the bottom end, but towards the bottom of their net worth, right? There's definitely a widening, a bigger disparity. Just yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can't even say that word either. So we're really good. This is going to be awesome when we put this out. There's a bigger disparity between the wealthy and those that aren't because of what happened in 2020. So the builders have talked about building more homes, but the problem with building more homes is that builders, and take the corporations out of it, or the investors out of it, they're in the business of making money, whether we
Mhm.
like it or not. They're in the business of making money. And so what they found is that they can actually make more money by building like houses more so for the middle class and the upper end than they can for those that really need more affordable housing, because there's obviously a better opportunity to make money on those homes, because it essentially takes the same amount of time, the same resources, all of that, to build homes just a little bit bigger that sell for a little bit more. And that's creating bigger issues that I think are going to continue to drive housing prices up. So what are you telling people
I
right
have a
now?
solution, like, I'm
Yeah,
just
let's hear it.
okay,
Let's
so
Yeah.
here's the deal, this is what happened after World War II. So, one of the things that people like most home builders don't even we're not gonna talk about that. A lot of the homes that you see that were built in right after World War II were modular construction, and they popped those things out like nobody's business. They were just going in one right after another. 3 days, you had a house built, and they were little small homes on little tiny lots. There is land in almost every single city that's not being used. You could give that land at a discount, have modular home companies put these small houses on, and they could basically start housing low income families out of apartment buildings and into their own home and start building wealth. It has been done before. We can do it again. Modular construction is just as good, if not better, than standard traditional home building. They have improved it exponentially throughout the years. It's already like tested the time, it's been time tested, because you look at those houses and you wouldn't even know to this day that half of them were built in a factory, and they resell just like a regular traditional home. There's no difference. It's not a manufactured home like you would think of a like a mobile home or a trailer, as some people would say. A modular home is a home. It just happens to be that all the pieces were put together in a factory, and they just bring them up to the site and click them together like you would think of Legos. You could have it done quickly, you could have it done affordably, and the government could give over the land that they've been sitting on that's doing absolutely nothing and give it back to the people who've been paying taxes for all this time, but it couldn't afford to live in a house. Not only that, I think the federal government could, for those specific people, if they have a limited income but have good credit, they could reduce the cost of, because you only can get a federal backed loan if it's $65,000 or above. So if you could make those homes like at $60,000 and give them a 30-year mortgage with a fixed rate, as long as they could qualify, that would really solve a big giant problem with the gap. In like, that's it. That's the solution. It's not that hard, but I don't know why people can't wrap their head around it. The only thing I can think of is that it doesn't really buy votes. So unless enough of us make enough of a stink about it at a lot of these meetings, those politicians, that's on the last thing on their list. They could care less. But the more, the louder voices get, that's then it's like, you know what? We really need to address this affordable housing crisis.
No,
And then things will get moving.
no, it's a problem. I mean, it is a problem. I mean, they put restrictions on home builders after the last housing crisis, which has only made this problem worse. And now
They're building less. They
they're
built
building
less.
less. Yeah,
They built
absolutely.
less since that last crash, because they overbuilt during the crash, and then after that they were like, well, we're not building as many. Instead of building 30 houses a year, they're building 10. Let's just say, for an
No,
example. So that caused the problem. If you look at the graphs when it comes to the amount of new construction, it's gradually gone down every single year since the last crash.
no,
So
I agree. And you've done a lot of videos on your channel about like, and I've said affordable housing, but about like modular type homes as well. I'll be honest. I know nothing about those. Right. I
I
mean,
think that's by design. I think
well,
that's by design. I think nobody knows anything about them, and it's because, as home builders don't want people to use something that's more affordable and easier for them. They want us to build the homes with them using their techniques,
right.
and I think that's the reason why. There's nothing wrong with them, not a thing.
No, I agree. I mean, so I grew up in North Carolina. So when I think of manufactured or mobile homes, I'm thinking like trailers, right? And I know that's not what they are because I've seen your videos. I've seen people out there talk about them. And I know you say, hey, you can just go out and put one, on a piece of land or whatever. And in North Carolina, like where I lived, you could do that, right? Because we
Mhm.
owned land and there was plenty of it. And if you wanted to pop one of these things up, it's like, okay, just go put it outside. Here in Southern California, we've got a different issue, right? Because there literally is no land unless you go out to basically what is now the desert, right? Because
Mhm.
they've built out Southern California so much that all you have, I mean, you can't. There are no available lots for sale. I mean, if
Mhm.
one does come on the market, it's multiple offers. It's just like anything else. And these lots, when I say a lot is for sale, like here in Huntington Beach, a basic 5,000 square foot lot, or say, in my market, it's going to sell for $800,000. So we're already talking, unaffordable to begin. That is completely unaffordable. And then you've got to go build or whatever on top of it. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. But in some of these other areas across the country, I mean, clearly they're having the same issue that we're having in California, but they have the opportunity to build those. So, I mean, how do you solve a problem like that in, say, Southern California? I mean, I know you don't have the answer, but it's like,
I have an idea though.
right? Let's
I
hear
have
it.
a
Yeah.
yeah, I have a great idea. So, throughout the country, we have all these malls. We have all these vacant buildings that have been used for other purposes. We could repurpose those buildings, or we could repurpose that land. Now, I understand that that like those lots would be worth a lot more. So for those types of areas, offer condos at that same price point I was saying earlier. Again, modular construction can be done for a lot of condos themselves. So have FHA approved condominiums for people that in the low income that it can do qualify with good credit, and allow them to use that land for that. I mean, instead of letting a building just sit there and rot, why not repurpose it? And malls have been used for retirement communities, so they could easily be used. That same idea could be easily used for affordable housing options.
No, it's a great, honestly, it's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, I've actually heard, I mean, now that you mentioned that, it brings up things that I've read in the past about, we have a mall here close to where I am. I mean, there's still a couple of stores in it, but for the most part, and it's not run down. It's still maintained. It's just nobody got, it's not used anymore. And they were talking about using that land, but my guess is that land is probably not going to be used for affordable housing. It's going to be used to develop more expensive condos and more expensive property, because that's typically the direction it goes. But I mean, we could go off on that tangent forever. But the sidetrack here for a sec, unless you have something you want to add to that.
Well, the thing is that everybody whines and complains about the homeless problem. So address it with something that's tangible to somebody. And the homeless problem is growing because they don't have affordable housing to live in. So
Yes.
if you want to address that, find affordable housing for them to live in. Like
I
it's
couldn't agree more.
simple as that. You give somebody a roof over their head, and then all of a sudden things start changing because the level of depression is gone because they're not living on the streets or out of a car. They have somewhere they can call home. And then if you give that same opportunity for people, now that they have a place to call home, that they can purchase it, oh my gosh, now they own something. That is very good for a person's self-worth to know that they have accomplished something like that. You would address so many more issues if you just give somebody a home.
No,
You
I
know?
mean, yeah,
Give them
no, I
or
mean,
let them earn it, of course, but you know what I'm saying.
absolutely. It builds, I mean, self-esteem, like you said. If you have a family, it builds security. I mean, there's a lot of things with owning property, like you said, that is more than just owning the property itself. I mean, of what it does to someone's character, someone's beliefs, and in all of that. And I've actually thought about doing a video going to LA. I mean, right, I'm about 40 minutes south of Los Angeles, and we're about an hour north of San Diego. So we're kind of in the middle of two big cities. And LA, it's amazing. Like, I mean, not amazing in a good sense, but it's amazing how much that homeless population has grown in the last 18 months. I mean, it's incredible if you go down there. I mean, it was bad before, but it
Mhm.
is a completely different level. I mean, I don't think a lot of, because when they show things on TV, it's glitz and glamour in Los Angeles, and everybody expects to come to Hollywood, if you will, and see, and it's like starstruck and all. It is not that at all. It is completely the opposite. You're seeing what the media, if you will, wants you to see. You're not seeing the reality of what's going on there. And I think if people really knew that side of things, the people would be more apt to try to make change in some of these things. And that's really what you need is people that are willing to fight for it. And I know there's groups in DC and different areas that are trying to uh, create opportunities, but it's just at some point it takes more than just a couple of groups. It takes the politicians and everyone else jumping on
All
board
of
to
us,
try to make it happen. No, absolutely, and
all our
making people
voices.
aware of it.
Mhm.
And I think this is good because of that.
And I always like whenever I explain this to people, I say just turn to California as the catalyst of what's probably going to happen to a lot of major cities that you haven't probably seen before. I mean, Chicago's always had a problem, Atlanta's got a problem, but it's growing exponentially. And I know you know this probably because it's in California, but Venice Beach is one of the few big cities that actually dropped in value in 2020 because of the explosion of homeless that have entered the area. So is that like what we want for every area? Are we just going to have people that live in houses and then people that don't? There's no like in between, because even rental prices right now are absolutely astronomically expensive. So that's why it seems like a lot of these people that are economists that have a lot deeper pockets seem like, well, the thing is just have more rental buildings and that way they're less expensive and then the people can just rent. But I still say that's a terrible plan because it doesn't necessarily help people grow wealth over time. I mean, a lot of people depend on that specific money that they get from that house that they paid for 30 years to live on as their retirement. Some people do those reverse mortgages. That's a totally different subject, but they do take that nest egg of money that they've built, equity that they've built in that house, and that is their retirement. That's the only
Oh,
investment they've
absolutely.
ever made. And now, like, if my kids will, if it, the way it's going, if my kids, you know, try to get a house by the time they graduate college, it's going to be almost it's not even going to be something they can even do. The American dream for them will be dead because of the price of homes and how they've gone up. And I know that a lot of people say, oh, there's a crash coming, and they've made these decisions to hold off on buying a home. But the difference between this specific housing market and what we've seen in the past, and I know you've went through the last crash like I did, was that last crash was held up by really crappy loans. I mean, just really crappy loans bought and sold 1,000 times over. This market, from what I'm seeing in my area, and I've talked to several real estate agents throughout the country, is held up by cash and cash over price and really good loans. People that are being qualified for these loans, the ones offers that we're accepting, they're putting down good 20, 30, 40% before they even like finance the house. So these are very strong buyers that are buying these houses. And not only that, I know that a lot of people have been seeing the headlines with Blackstone and BlackRock buying a lot of the subdivisions throughout the country. And that is a truth. That is true. I've talked to several agents, one in South Carolina, one in Texas, that they bought subdivisions, the whole thing. And what their only plan was to rent them out. They're not looking to sell them. They're just going to rent them out.
Yeah,
So that's
it's a new
scary to me.
strategy. It's called BTR. I mean, it has its own acronym now because it's buy to rent, right? So they're
Hmm.
buying these communities in with the idea that they're going to rent them out, no other reason. Um, and is that because they think there's a crash coming, or is it because they think inflation could potentially be an issue and they're hedging themselves against inflation because you got a fixed asset at a fixed price? When things are going to continue rising, they're able to keep rents moving upward and continue to bring in income for investors and what have you. Again, a whole different conversation.
Yeah, but
And we
totally
could,
that's the reason.
yeah, no,
The reason
absolutely.
too.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, what are you saying in order to keep, because we could keep talking all day, we'll keep it somewhat short here.
Oh,
If
okay.
somebody's coming to you right now and they're saying, I'm thinking of buying a house, but let me see. Should I wait or should I purchase? And now, you can answer this however you want. But there's people that think that in 6 months, house prices are going to be significantly less than they are now. Are you getting people coming to you asking the question of, should I do this now, or should I wait for something, or should I try to save more money and do something in the future? And if so,
Okay.
how are you addressing those at the moment? Because I think it's a popular question and people like need somebody to kind of guide them through that.
This is how I tell people to look at it. If you are looking at a house and you are financially able to purchase a house right now, and you're like trying to play the crystal ball, like, I don't know what's going to happen. The value of the dollar today is going to be less tomorrow, and it's going to be less the time after that, and the day after that, and the day after that. And that means that inflation is going to happen. So go ahead and take your money right now and go ahead and purchase a house. I'm not saying that because I'm a real estate agent. I'm saying that because the inflation is going to happen. Interest rates will go up at some point. I mean, the Fed has always said that, like they keep telling us, but just I think that if you have the financial aptitude to purchase a home now, go ahead and do that now. But if it's a struggle for you, if you are scraping up money, you're thinking about cashing out a 401k, you're borrowing from everyone under the sun, and you're still not even sure if you're going to make that payment, do not buy a home. Don't do that. You're financially strapping yourself. And that's what happened in 2007 that caused the last crash, because people overbought for their house. So they had a house that was basically an empty shell because they couldn't even afford to furnish it. So be smart, talk to a good lender, find out your financial situation and your credit situation. And if you're financially able to do it, yeah, there's no reason not to purchase a house right now. If you can find one, if you
Oh,
can find
that's
one.
yeah. No, I mean, when I hear you say that, I hear what comes to mind is have a plan for one, have a budget too. So make sure you're actually having a budget, right? Because what happens is when you qualify for a loan, and this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but a lender is going to qualify you for the max that you can afford. And sometimes that's 50% of your income, right? But
Mhm.
they're not factoring in things like your telephone payment, your groceries, your gas, your dinners out with your family, your vacations, any of that stuff. So you, as someone buying a property, whether you're a first-time home buyer, investor, whoever you are, be prudent and actually go through the steps and say, hey, these are what my monthly expenses are. Can I truly afford this property? Because you don't want to be house poor. Most people
Mhm.
don't. Some people don't care, right? Because they're like, this is where I'm going to live. I don't care. It's my sanctuary. I'm staying here, whatever. But the majority of people out there still want to live life and not get caught up and just have their house, and that's the only thing that
They're
that they're
chained to it. It's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
they're chained to their home. I think that, like, I don't know how it is in California, but here in Louisiana, the lenders don't necessarily take you to your cap. They'll say you can qualify for here, but in order for you to be within your budget that you've already had, this is where you should be in order to have a house payment of this much. We could go that high, but I don't recommend it. They do say that. Um,
Yeah, so I would say the majority of lenders don't go that direction, right? The good ones, the professionals out there, ask the right questions to get the amount that somebody's looking to pay.
mhm.
But what I found in my career is that people start looking at properties. Say their budget initially was $2,000 a month,
Mhm.
and that's where they wanted to stay, and that gave them X amount of house. When they get out there looking, and then they start looking online or wherever it is, and then they see a house that's now 2,300 a month, and they can qualify, gives them a little bit, checks another box on their wants list, if you will. They're like, well, can I afford another 300 a month?
Mhm.
Yeah, and then it continues, right? And people continue to do that. It's just the natural progression of somebody wanting, to get everything they want in a property, and thinking that they're able to sacrifice on the other side or what have you. But I mean, obviously, a professional lender is going to tell you, hey, listen, this is where you qualify, but based on where you want to stay, this is how much you should stay at or whatever. But
That's the
ultimately, you
thing
can't
about
make the
plan.
decisions, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that's the thing
exactly.
about the plan. But,
And having a budget.
like, if you for instance, our rent here is about, for a three-bedroom house, will be about $1,600 to $2,000 depending. If you can get a home loan and your, mortgage payment is 1,750, or, just a hair over $2,000, and that's, if that's like what it looks like in your area, get a house. I mean, get
No,
a house.
absolutely.
Like, that's a win-win right there.
Do you want some payment shock here for a moment? So where I
Sure.
am, you said 1,700 gets you what, a three two,
Yeah, three-bedroom, two bath.
and how many
Older
square feet?
house.
How many square feet?
1,500, 1,500.
Okay, so that same property where I am right here is probably 35, 3,700 a month,
That
depending
doesn't
on where it
surprise
is.
me.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, it's
California.
just no, I mean, it's just dumb. It's the same house, it's just in a different state. Well, the weather's a little bit different, but other than that, it's essentially the same house. And you probably have a yard there. There's probably no yard that's coming with the property that I just mentioned. But
Yeah, in Texas, everybody's like, "Oh, the homes are so cheap." I'm like, "But the property taxes are so high, and they get postage stamp lots. They're just little tiny, 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 tiny lots." I lived in Houston, and I'm like, "Where is the lot?" Like those swimming pool filled up the whole backyard.
yeah,
They're
no,
tiny.
that's well, in here you'd be lucky if you have a swimming pool in some of these lots because of and especially the new construction stuff, right? I mean, because the new construction, they go into these communities and the lots are smaller because they're trying to
Mhm.
maximize the value of or the dollar that they can bring out of that entire community. And so smaller lots building up on the houses versus, single levels or two-story, whatever, they go up and yeah, it just and you're paying more for it than the last guy, and that just adds to that whole affordability thing. So yeah, I mean, I guess we could continue talking on this. Instead of doing that, we'll cut it here, and
Okay.
maybe come back for a round two at some point if you're up for it.
Sure.
But if so, I first want to thank you and for being here, taking the time to do it, and also
Of course.
ask anybody that is watching at the moment to go check out Christina's channel if you haven't already. Subscribe. Again, if you're somebody looking for guidance in the real estate space, she can definitely help you out there. Christina, final words, anything you want to add, plug, go for it.
I have nothing to plug other than my channel is just really basically trying to help the affordable housing crisis. That's it. That's all I've ever tried to do is just try to help give honest, truthful information. Do I get it wrong sometimes? Yes. But do I admit when I get it wrong? 100% all the time. So I will get comments like, this lady said blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, I did. But that was also 10 months ago and the information has changed. So I will admit when I'm wrong. And so I know it's so weird. Honest real estate agents, people don't think that that's a real thing, but they do exist. Me and Jeb do exist. We're real honest real estate agents.
No, yeah, and we're trying to make it a better place, a better space. And
Yes.
what I will say ending this is, if affordable housing is important to you, write the people, write the politicians in your state, let them know your thoughts, take the advice of Christina, tell them ideas and ways they can help and hopefully over time, obviously it's going to take a lot of people doing that to make a difference, but
Yep.
it can make a difference and you can be a part of it. So we appreciate you being here. Appreciate your time again,
Thank
Christina.
you.
Appreciate you guys watching, and we will see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye bye.